Welcome back to the Wyatt Claypool Show, everyone. I have a nasty habit of taking serious issues seriously when it comes to Canadian politics. I guess that's why I'm not a liberal. And without a doubt, one of the most dishonest and backhanded things I've ever seen Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party do is currently playing out with this foreign interference scandal. So, you know how there's an internal government report out there showing that allegedly 11 MPs currently serving in the House of Commons have worked with foreign agents? Well, according to the Liberal Party, this issue is all about Pierre Poilievre, even though most of, if not all, of the identified 11 MPs are Liberals. It's Poilievre at issue because he won't get a security clearance to read this internal government report. Even though if he reads the report, he can never talk about the issue, even if an investigative journalist uncovers things that are in the report, Poilievre can never confirm or deny if those things are true. It's a stupid liberal political game, and they're playing this political game knowing that, again, most, if not all, of the identified MPs are in their own caucus. We get stupid, snarky videos like what Michael Cotu just made here, going after Poilievre for not getting the security clearance, just lying to Canadians and pretending like Poilievre, if he just read the report, all of this would be taken care of. They're not kicking anyone out of caucus. Trudeau knows there are people in his caucus that are compromised, who are working with the Pakistani government, the Iranian government, who are working with China, any other hostile foreign country, and he won't get rid of them, but they're trying to needle Poilievre over this. I want to take you through a few of these videos because they're just hilariously infuriating. This is such a weak, stupid thing for the Liberals to be doing. And what's insane is there are people online who buy this, who want to make the entire issue of traitors in the House of Commons about Poilievre not making sure, like, not making it so he can't speak about the issue. It's so stupid. Conservative MPs have read it, but they can't even tell Poilievre what's in it. That's how stupid it is. Anyways, but before I get into this, I do want to encourage you guys, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, make sure you do subscribe. I know about 75% of people who watch this channel are not actually subscribed. And if you want to support us, you can always go into the description below and donate to the Gifts and Go legal fund, or go to it as well at the pinned at the top of the comments. We have a billionaire Chinese developer suing us for defamation that in almost 3 years, he hasn't actually provided any evidence of. He is suing us for the sake of suing us, and it's cost me $33,000 so far. But without further ado, let's get to this video from Liberal MP from Don Valley East, Michael Cotu, or Cotu. Coteau? I don't know. I can never pronounce names ever when they have the T-E-A-U at the end.
Pierre Poilievre says it's time to get serious with foreign interference. And in fact, I agree. I think all MPs in the House of Commons would agree with that. But unlike all other MPs, he actually has the ability to go through a security clearance and get that high-level briefing. So the big question is, why has every single leader in every single party gone through that security clearance except him? So my advice to Pierre Poilievre, get the clearance, get the briefing, and protect the country.
Trudeau already knows what's in the briefing. Singh knows what's in the briefing. Elizabeth May knows what's in the briefing, even though she's a crazy person I don't think should ever be given confidential information. Yves Francois Blanchet has the information. But Poilievre needs to read it or we can't defend the country. Trudeau knows who's a traitor. And he's just sitting there saying, why won't Poilievre take the, go look at the briefing, even though it means he can never talk about it? This is so stupid. If you buy this, if you buy what the Liberals are selling right here, this is an IQ test and you failed it. Goodness. How, like, you have to be pretty politically cynical to think that this is a good point. Now let's just go over to Karina Gould, the Liberal MP for Burlington, who I am very happy to report is very unlikely to win her re-election. There's currently a Conservative Party nomination actually going on for that riding. I fully endorse Emily Brown. She's a great candidate for that riding. She actually used to live in my riding of Calgary Signal Hill that I ran for the nomination of. Would have won, randomly kicked out 2.5 weeks before the vote. But, you know, that's neither here nor there now. But here's Karina Gould, again, trying to talk down to Pierre Poilievre, even though her boss knows who is a traitor and has not kicked anybody out of his government yet.
All week, I've been asking the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada why he is refusing to get a security clearance. and he hasn't been able to answer. Now, Canadians might be wondering why this is.
By the way, Poilievre has answered multiple times on why he won't do it, and he's given my explanation. Michael Chong has given an explanation, and I'll actually go and read that explanation. It's both about the fact he can't talk about it, as well as the fact that Poilievre doesn't want to go through an incredibly intrusive background check, which allows the Liberals to know a lot more personal information about him. Not because Poilievre's done anything wrong and it would reveal it, but why would you trust the Liberals that they're not going to leak out information on you? They've been leaking out any information that hurts India recently because Trudeau wants to get into a big fight with India because he thinks it will buoy his popularity. They will selectively leak things that make them look good, even though the overall narrative makes no sense. I will talk a little bit about that India situation a bit later in this video because it's absolutely bonkers what we are alleging that India has done. I don't trust India on a lot of issues, but on this issue, the what the Liberals are alleging just doesn't make a lot of sense. Even though, again, I wouldn't put it past the Indian government not to mess with elections, not like in terms of rigging elections, but, in nomination races or trying to influence policy. A lot of governments do it. But regardless, what the Liberals are saying the Indian government's doing is insane.
Is important. Well, it's important to understand that just because you're a member of parliament doesn't mean that you have any sort of security clearance. And if you want to know things that are so important and vital to Canada's national security, it's important that you go through this process. Now, I can only imagine that the reason why he's refusing to get this clearance is because he has something to hide. And in fact, one of his MPs actually said that this week in media.
I will read this for you right now so that you know what kind of nonsense she's spewing. So here's Michael Chong. She's not going to read what Michael Chong said because when you read it, it will then make sense why he wasn't going to do it. So Michael Chong said, Mr. Chong said security clearance involves a rigorous process that includes background checks on family members, credit and criminal checks, and intrusive questions about one's sexual partners or whether they've ever used drugs. The Conservative Party fear any personal and family information obtained through this process could be used by the government to for politically motivated purposes against Poilievre. And again, like this India situation, the Liberals constantly leak to places like the National Post or other Liberal-friendly media. So if they find anything embarrassing about even a Poilievre family member, I guarantee Poilievre's they will leak it. And the thing is, everyone has something embarrassing if you ask them enough questions, and if they have to answer on the record, they will. And I also just think that this is just a supplemental reason to the fact that it doesn't do anything if Poilievre reads the report. He can't talk about it. So what is the purpose?
Media reports. He talked about the fact that he didn't want to disclose information because he was worried it might be used against him. Now, what is it exactly that the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada is trying to hide from Canadians?
Sorry, but is she just confirming right there she would totally leak it? Because the whole point is that it's not being hidden from Canadians. It's only supposed to be seen by a few people. The whole point is she is confirming what's he hiding from Canadians. So if he said anything that you could use against him, I don't think he's committed a crime. I'm pretty sure we would have heard about that by now. And he's actually gone through security clearances in the past. This one is just hyper deep. But she's right here basically confirming that she'd totally leak it. Because what is he hiding from Canadians? So if something pops up and she's like, oh, Canadians need to know it, then the Washington Post is probably going to be publishing it the next day, or the Globe and Mail or whatever other news publication the Liberals have an ally in could put it out.
Does he think he might not be able to pass a security clearance? Or does he know something and he's trying to hide it? Or is there something that he's trying to protect? These are the questions Canadians need to rightfully be asking. Because if he's asking them to be their prime minister, to lead this country, but he's willing to put the national security of Canadians, our relationships with our intelligence partners around the world, and quite frankly, the lives of Canadians at risk to protect himself or protect his party, should he even be asking for their trust in the first place?
Karina Gould's boss, Justin Trudeau, knows who the traitors are, and he won't release the names which Poilievre keeps asking for. What is wrong with you? This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. What's he trying to hide? You guys are literally hiding who is passing information about Canada to foreign agents, or who is like trying to serve the interests of foreign countries. Yes, what? This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, I want to go see some of the reactions that some people had. Oh my goodness. And this is where I just want to talk a little bit about this. These are some of the really dumb responses I've seen online from liberals. This isn't quite related to the foreign interference issue, but it's somewhat close. But a lot of just gutter trash, sewer level takes from people who are still liberal cheerleaders online. So BK Belton here says, Pierre Poilievre on CBC, not one question about his security clearance, not one word about his fake leadership. Our media is a pathetic joke. We're being had. And then he puts the India flag, because apparently Pierre Poilievre is an agent of India. And then it has this headline from Cult MTL, which we've read some articles from before, which is a left-wing Trudeau cheerleading rag. And it says, Canada's mainstream media is biased towards the Conservatives. And then the other subhead said, the right controls almost all of Canada's legacy media. To believe this, you have to have your brain replaced by clown soup. You have to have eaten all of the stupid pills to think that the legacy media in Canada, which keeps chirping at Pierre Poilievre in interviews until it kept backfiring, that he is dog whistling to the far right, that he's trying to spread conspiracy theories and whatnot. You think that the CBC, the Canada Press, Toronto Star is on the side of the Conservative Party? No. And every once in a while, you'll have one of these crazy charts come out that looks like it's made by a conspiracy theorist, showing that all these different papers endorsed the Conservatives in the last election. They didn't. This is a stupid media trick where you take a publication, you find if one of their opinion writers has said nice things about the Conservatives, and then you pretend that the entire publication has endorsed the Conservatives, even though places like the Globe and Mail, the Toronto Star, even CBC, Global News, City TV, National Post, they have usually writers on the left and the right for their opinion sections, because putting out interesting opinions, no matter what political side it's from, gets viewership. But then they'll pretend that Conrad Black is who speaks on behalf of the entire National Post or whatever more conservative person at any given publication says. In fact, if that's true, technically the National Post in the 2022 Ontario provincial election endorsed the New Blue Party of Ontario, which is a good move. I think the New Blue Party is great in Ontario, but that's not how that works. But yeah, obviously the media is very liberally run. And I'm not just saying this because, it benefits the Conservatives to say that they're after them. It's just obviously true. It's obviously true. Anyways, here we go. Here's another person saying, in most of Canada, you need at least a police clearance just to do community work, but apparently not to run for prime minister, with a picture of Pierre Poilievre. He's had security clearances before. He's had personal security clearances. But with how bad the Liberals are when it comes to leaking things, why would you ever let them do an intrusive background check in which Karina Gould and other Liberal MPs make verbal insinuations that they totally would want Canadians to know anything in there that they don't already know about Pierre Poilievre? Something that none of these people would be cool with doing. And I guarantee in the past, they've not answered all of a journalist's questions because they didn't want to answer them. This is basically the exact same issue. Sometimes it's not worth doing. Anyways, all this stuff's so stupid. It's so stupid. But yeah, and even then, when Karina Gould said that the Conservatives, or Michael Chong had said that the only reason that Poilievre won't take the security clearance is because he doesn't want Canadians knowing things about him. The primary reason is still he can't talk about this issue anyways. And it's a stupid trade that you get to read the report and never talk about it, and then the Liberals maybe get to leak an embarrassing personal piece of information about one of your family members. Anyways, oh my goodness. Here's actually another thing about the media. I want to play this clip because I don't really want to make an entire episode about it. This is Nikki Ashton, a NDP member of parliament, who's now attacking True North media as conspiracy theorists while defending the CBC, while also saying that the CBC is compromised. Anyways, her post says, True North, a right-wing conspiratorial site, has had interviews with banned white supremacists. Knowing this, Conservative MPs and the likes of Pierre Poilievre still met with them, all while he patiently waits to defund the CBC. We must protect our public broadcaster. And I guess this is a good tie-in because I'm actually going to the True North Nation event in Calgary tomorrow. I forget where it's at, but you guys can look it up if you want to buy last-minute tickets. I'm not actually like a panelist or anything. I just wanted to swing by. It's always fun to attend other people's events. But this is one of the most unhinged takes I've ever seen from an MP trying to attack a conservative outlet. You want to be at least like a little bit more professional than this rather than just saying, oh, my opponents are conspiracy theorists and white supremacists. And the white supremacist thing doesn't even make sense. She's referring to Gavin McInnes, who was associated with the Proud Boys, which got banned as a like white supremacist terrorist group, in which that's a massive stretch in terms of the Proud Boys. And the fact that they haven't also banned Antifa is really hypocritical. But Gavin McInnes left them years ago, and he's not a white supremacist. In fact, he is very pro-Israel. So whatever. But I guess Nikki Ashton probably considers that white supremacy because she doesn't like Israel and has a very rocky relationship with Jewish Canadians.
True North, a conspirational website that has denied the genocide of Indigenous peoples in Canada and has peddled all sorts of conspiracy theories, has done interviews with the leader of a banned white supremacist group, and also sat down with a number of conservative MPs, including the leader of the Conservatives, Mr. Poilievre. In one such interview, Mr. Poilievre argued to defund the CBC, which is no surprise. He's talked about this many times. He's even been quoted as saying, quote, "I can't wait to defund the CBC," unquote.
Also, most Canadians want to defund the CBC, so I'm not sure if this is exactly indicting.
This is unacceptable, and it is heartbreaking for so many Canadians that rely on a strong public broadcaster.
I'm just going to stop it here because it's a longerish video, but she then goes into talking about the CBC executives giving themselves bonuses, and this is undermining the public trust in the CBC and playing into Pierre Poilievre's playbook and whatnot. But nobody watches the CBC. The CBC, the national peak, when they're really pumping up the numbers, gets like 200,000 people who will watch them in a night or in a day. It's really nothing. CTV, Global, CDTV gets more viewership. They do still get subsidies, but they don't get nearly as many subsidies as the CBC. And so subsidies don't equal viewership. In fact, my show, True North, Rebel News, and all these other alternative media outlets, we get equivalent numbers to many CBC shows, and we have no government funding. I have basically no budget. My budget is $5 and a ham sandwich, and I've still lost money doing this because of the lawsuits from people like the guy from China suing me. And we somehow do a better job of covering the facts of cases, even though I have no budget to do any reporting. But I can look at the general facts laid out on social media and do a more accurate portrayal of it than the CBC does. That's why people don't watch them. Because one, they're boring as heck. Have you ever watched the CBC, the National? It's 45 minutes where they repeat like the same 3 stories over and over again. Because apparently $1.4 billion doesn't actually buy good quality reporting or variety. The 2 is that they just misrepresent so many issues. And 3, they don't actually give the conservative perspective whenever they have opinion shows and they have a panel. They always bring on the weakest conservative possible to basically just agree with the liberal take on things or barely push back on the liberal narratives they put out. It is obviously very liberal. They are more left than like CNN would be in the US. They're more subtle about it, but they're the type of place that would just openly would call you like transphobic for disagreeing with gender theory in schools. They're absolutely nuts. That's why people don't like them. That's why they want them defunded, because the CBC is not worth the $1.4 billion we put into them. And then it acts as basically an arm of the left, not just the Liberal Party, but the NDP and the Greens too. The Greens get crazy amounts of coverage out of the CBC and other legacy media outlets, even though they're a pretty irrelevant party overall. And then too, like the thing is, think about how low donation caps are in Canadian politics. The Liberals, even when they don't have a lot of money, they get so much more press from the CBC, so it almost acts as an in-kind contribution. But if you're donating to the Conservative Party, you're capped at like $1,750 in order to fund them. That was like a big problem in British Columbia. You can only donate like $1,400 to the Conservative Party or to individual parties. And the BC NDP is basically backed up by the Tyee. They're backed up by the CBC, City News, Global News. Everyone was smearing and attacking the BC Conservatives who don't have the budget to fight back. They'll have more money this next election when it probably pops up in probably less than 2 years. because they get the public financing the NDP's been getting. But still, it's absolutely insane what's been going on. Anyways, that should be it for me today, guys. I'm ending this show early because I just realized I have to jump on another interview. But donate to the show if you can, and I will see you guys in my next video.